either in the fertile time or in the infertile time, naturally given to her by God. And what God asks of women and couples to do is basically to observe the signs that are generated within the cycle that she has. God gives the woman in a cycle, fertility cycle, signs to observe when she's fertile and when she's not fertile. Naturally, she's able to see. Even the blind are able to see. Those who have eyes can be able to see. So it's a study of love and life, but basically it's a study of knowing yourself as a woman, knowing yourself as a spouse. Because as couple, you enter into marriage. This is one of the key elements that is part and parcel of your marriage preparation, because it is from there that you go up together in the aspect of procreation. So the first thing when you meet your spouse, and I'm saying this in a very light touch, instead of asking them, how are you called? You should ask them, what is your fertility cycle, so that the journey should start going on. Because that is the beginning of everything, that you're able to know your spouse very well, and you're able to cooperate with her in trying to see her fertility in areas where we are able to space birth. So this is how in a month, the cycle of a woman who is still in a fertile period looks like. And when I talk about fertility cycle, remember, I'm not using the word menstrual cycle. There are two differences here. So when I talk about fertility cycle, I'm talking about the beginning of the period that a woman experiences, and you can see there with red, marked red, and the model I'm using on the screen is basically an average type of fertility cycle. We have different types, and we look at them slowly as we go along, but this is basically an average one, which normally falls between 25 to 31 days in a month. And when you talk about the beginning of the fertility cycle of a woman, we are talking about the moment where she receives a menstrual period. When she receives a menstrual period, the first day of a menstrual period is the first day of a fertility cycle. And just even before I proceed on, the natural family planning is the easiest method I've ever seen. The only thing that I request couples who are in this platform, please make sure you have a tissue with you. Just a tissue. Keep a tissue around if you know you're a couple. So the first cycle of our fertility begins on the first day of our menstrual period, and that is marked by red. And in a normal regular cycle, you'll find that that is followed by a day of either dryness, meaning the sign she's feeling down there, or the sensation is about dryness, or to some couples, to some women, it may be wet, but that wetness is not fertile. So that time, in that period, is a period in which where the pattern has not changed to fertility. It could be between 4 days to 5 days, we'll be able to see, depending on the woman. And again, each woman is very different. There are some women which do not see this dry one. The dry part that I'm showing you, some women with short cycle do not have this dry one. It doesn't mean that they cannot probably use this natural family planning. From onset, natural family planning can be used by all women created by God, all women, including those who are irregular cycle. So it is for everybody. Because why? Because the signs that God is showing this woman through her changes of her body is visible to all of us. The time may differ, but the sign and the symptoms are there for all of us. So she has a period of rest, maybe between 5 to 4 days. And then 6 days before the peak, when the egg is released, which is ovulation, she has what we call fertility period, the fertile phase, which normally is marked by green, as you can see. And you see the hormone which is up here is called the hormone estrogen. So the fertility of a woman is actually controlled by two hormones, estrogen and progesterone. There is another hormone that we have, and that is testosterone for men, but it is a very minute percentage. It doesn't really play much in our fertility. But these two, estrogen and progesterone, plays a great role in trying to regulate and be able to regulate the phases that we have in our fertility. So when a woman is fertile, the hormone that takes preference, the hormone that is actively involved, is called estrogen. And for some of you who are actually married, who have your spouses, this is the period you'll hear your spouse is actually having a glow on her face. She has a beautiful glow on her face. She's smelling very nice. She's always very active. She could sing in the shower, also sing when she's cooking. That is the time that estrogen is actually, she's in her fertile phase. The actions and the changes are visible even to the person who is not actually a woman. You're able to see the change. Yeah. And at that time, God also gives a woman a very special key, a key called mucus. And this is where we are able to see the difference between when a woman is fertile and not fertile. Beside the physical changes that we see in her expression, her beauty, even down there, she's able to see a mucus, which is glucose alkaline, which is actually very favorable for also transportation of the sperms to the egg. This mucus, which is very special, which we'll see as we go along, marks the peak and the beginning of our fertile phase, and is changes into texture, into a certain, something like roll like egg, mucus, which is very slippery, which is part of the peak, is the peak of the ovulation. That's the time the egg is actually being released from the ovaries. And if there is a couple willing, want to have probably a child at that time, this time of fertility is the best phase of trying to conceive a baby. Yeah. After that, the woman, after the egg has been released from the ovary, the rule is you count 3 days, because science tells us that the egg from the ovary down to the passing through the uterus to the cervix takes between 12 days to 24 days, depending on actually, again, the lifestyle. If the woman is very active, it could pass between 12 hours. If the woman is not active or something, we give it 24 hours. And then we always give one additional day, which is the 3rd day, to see how the mucus are changing. Between that 3rd day after ovulation, all the way to our cycle, is always a period between 10 days to 16 days before the next, she sees a next period. That time, another hormone takes over, and the hormone we call progesterone, and that is what the hormone you see here. And in this hormone, changes the mucus from alkaline to a thick plug, which is normally known as acidic mucus. Now, this acidic mucus does not burn the way the word acidic, no, but it acts like antibiotic. God created a woman to be self-medicated down there. It is like antibiotic, which will kill any bacteria or any germs that would like to interfere with, actually, with the uterus. So it is cleared before. So the acidic mucus is actually very favorable for the woman, because any antibiotic is very good for even to help us fight bacteria or any other thing that we have. Now, that period when there's acidic mucus, the woman is infertile. And I said in a normal cycle, it will range between 10 to 16 days before she sees a menstrual period. And between that time, if you're not wanting a baby, that is favorable time also naturally for man and wife to be engaged in sexual intercourse if they're looking for a baby. So basically, that is what we call fertility cycle of a woman. The beginning of a period, the first day of a beginning of a period, to the next beginning of a next period. And each woman is very unique. Some of us, we have very short cycle. Some of us, we have regular cycles. Some of us, we have very long cycle. And up here, you can see the way the egg, ripening of egg, the way the egg is selected, it goes through a process of maturation before it is released. And then after that, we have what we call luteal phase, whereby that corpus luteal changes the mucus to become acidic so that any other thing, including sperms, cannot penetrate because there's no egg to be fertilized. So sperms already, even that mucus is able to kill the sperms on the spot after a few seconds. That is the cycle of a woman, all the month for a natural woman. Now, something I ought to say here, if a woman is contracepting, she doesn't experience any of these things we are seeing here. That is the sad news. She doesn't experience the alkaline, the glucose mucus we are talking about of fertility. She's continually acidic, and there is no ovulation. So the question comes in, so what actually happens to a woman who is actually contraceptive? Will you be able to see? Is it menstruation, or it is just the uterine wall which is shedding itself? For a true menstruation to be, there must be ovulation. There must be ovulation. Without ovulation, whatever happens is not called menstruation. And so from that recap on that's what we'll be talking about all through. Basically as simple as that, that's what we'll be talking about through. I would like us to take us back a little bit to St. Paul, especially on his text that normally accompanies the study of natural family planning. And it talks to us, especially in Ephesians. Remember at the beginning I said, the natural family planning is a method of love and life. If you are pro love and life, then this is a method for us. But if you are not, then you'll not be able to follow it because it demands love, it demands life, because marriage also stands on those two legs, love and life. So Paul tells us, and this is a familiar verse that most of us know from Ephesians 5, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ loves the church, and handed himself over for her to sanctify her, cleansing her by the bath of water with the word, that he might present to himself the church in a splendor without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she may be holy and without blemish. So also husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one hates his own flesh, but rather nourishes and cherishes it, even as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body, the church. So St. Paul opens for us a beautiful study of natural family planning with the theme of love. Because if couples, spouses love each other, then love is patient. Love is able to communicate. And that is very key in the understanding of natural family planning. So that you're able to understand when your spouse tells you, this is not the right time, out of love, you're able to apply other modes of love to be able to make your marriage a complete one. Now, my outline is going to take 5 parts, and I hope I have enough time for this one. The study of natural family planning is simple. Basically, it will take 10 minutes, but the most important thing is the bed upon which natural family planning lies. That is what takes time. The bed upon which natural family planning lies, because unless we spread this bed very well, we are not able to practice it according to God's plan. We'll be actually practicing it like, building a house on a sand and somebody builds a house on a rock. So we want to build our house on a rock such that when it begins, it will not fall, even if there are many issues, including the bill that you're talking about. If it comes, we will not be tempted to fall. Yeah. So the first part of our presentation will be understanding the human person who actually practices the natural family planning. Who is this person? Understanding the human person who practices this natural family planning. The second part will talk about the fertility facts that we know about male and female. What do you know about your spouse as a male? What do you know about your spouse as a female? Do you even know the cycle of your spouse? Do you know the signs that she sees? Do you know the fertility of your husband? Then part 3, we'll talk about the natural family planning itself. So the two, the human person and the fertility facts are like, we are putting a mattress and we are putting bed sheets and bed, and then natural family planning will lie on it. And as we take natural family planning, we can never talk about natural family planning without talking about the effects of contraceptives mentality, which actually violates the very core of the gift of life and love. And then part 5, I will try to tell you a little bit what the church says about natural family planning. So the first part, the fundamental truths about the human person who practices natural family planning, the Christian person. Now, the Christian person has got 3 important truths that cannot be erased, that we have to be able to keep reminding ourselves as we go along. And the first fundamental truth about the human person is the gift, the unique dignity that God gave this person in his image and likeness. The human person is made in the image and likeness of God, the imago Dei. That is something that we cannot run away from. What does it mean to image God? We image his goodness. We image his truth, his love. We image a lot of things that God gives to us, yeah? That is the first thing, the identity of the human person, a human person created in the image and likeness of God. The second truth about the human person who practices natural family planning, this human person unites in body and soul. You are a composite of body and soul. We cannot separate the body from the soul. We cannot separate the soul from the body. You are a unity. So that this propaganda, which normally people say, my body, my choice, contradicts this second truth about ourselves. And that is scripturally based. We are composite of body and soul. We are unity. You cannot separate it. Whatever affects the body will affect the soul as well. The third truth about the human person who practices natural family planning is that God created this person male and female. God created this person male and female. The sexual difference is very key, such that what we have in our fertility is unique to women. What men have in their fertility is unique to them. And we'll see that. We'll see when it comes to the fertility facts, very unique to each one of us. Male and female created for what purpose? For procreation, for complementarity. So this idea, and I say this in a very sad way, this idea that male and male, God created male and male for marriage, that is wrong. God did not create male and male. This idea we have in our head that this is right, to have male and male in a marriage, that is wrong. Female and female in a marriage is wrong. The Bible is very clear. He created male and female. And that is the truth that our Christian understanding is all about. Now, beside creating male and female, God also gave gifts of creation to this human person. And gifts, are supposed to be used. If I give you a gift to use it, there's a logic that is normally behind the gift. There's the giver, there's the receiver, and then there's a relationship between the giver and the receiver in the gift. The first gift that we are given in our creation is the gift of dignity, sexuality, and sexual difference. The gift of dignity, sexuality, and sexual difference. The second gift that we are given in creation is the gift of marriage and family. Marriage and family, which has the element of unitive and conjugal love. Marriage and family. And that is spelled out if we read just a little bit. Then the Lord God said, and I'm reading from Genesis, it is not good for a man. It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him. Then the man said, this at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Therefore man leaves his father and his mother and cleaves to his wife, and they become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. Genesis 2. The gift of marriage. The author of marriage is God. It is important to understand at this beginning that marriage takes three people. God in the center and the spouses. It is never between the spouses alone. And on the part of God, that's where the church stands in, which represent to us. So sometimes a couple will say in difficulties, what is the church telling me this all about? No, the church is standing on the person which is actually the head of the church, which is Christ himself, and God, the author of marriage. So marriage takes three people. So we cannot remove marriage from the church. We can also not remove the sacrament itself from the church. So the sacrament is part and parcel of the church. So marriage as it is, marriage is safeguarded by the church as the custodian of the sacrament of matrimony. The third gift that we are given in creation is the gift of procreation. Now this is where we come in. This is where now the bed starts taking shape. First, God gives us the gift of dignity, sexuality, and sexual difference. He gives us the gift of family, marriage and family. And then he commissions us to the gift of procreation. And that is in Genesis 1:28. Be fruitful and multiply. And this is what is picked up by the fathers of the church, even by the popes of the church, that when they say every marital act must be open to life. The gift of procreation is a gift of creation. The gift of procreation is a gift of creation. You cannot run away from it. Going a little further, it is important that we understand Now we are trying to put a blanket onto our bed. What marriage is all about? What marriage is all, and I'll be very brief. The best definition of marriage that I've come across is found in Pastoral Constitution of the Church in the modern world, and I'm talking about Vatican II Council for those who have it, Joy and Hope number 48. And it says marriage in a very beautiful terms. And in these terms that we have natural family planning. It says the intimate community partnership of conjugal life and love, which constitute the married state, has been established by the Creator. The author of marriage is coming very visible, and endowed by him with his own proper laws, is rooted in the contract of its partner that is in their irrevocable personal consent. So marriage, according to the language of Vatican II Council, is a conjugal life and love, which is the core mission of the couple. What this means is that it is an institution confirmed by the divine law and receiving its stability. It is a sacred bond, no longer depends on the human decision alone, meaning we cannot take it as a only human decision alone. We have to take it with the element that actually it has a divine origin. It has a divine origin. Now, in this concise sentence from Vatican II, the Church presents to us a profound vision of marriage in 4 dimensions, and this is important. 1, marriage is an institution of divine origin. It is an institution which has its own specific nature and laws established by the Creator. Marriage is governed by laws. If I could tell you that, of course, in canon law, we have 110 laws governing marriage. 110 laws governing marriage. And the laws of nature from God, which governs marriage, is the laws that marriage is between man and a woman. And we cannot run away from that. It's between man and a woman. An institution which is essentially and personally form of a communion, marriage is called to form a communion of persons. Through conjugal love, husband and wife form a communion of persons. 4th, it is an institution which is entered into only through free and irrevocable consent of man and woman. Here, because I know some of our priests who have joined are very conversant with Code of Canon Law, and during marriage preparation, we normally request that they are also given a glimpse of some of the laws that govern the institution in which they actually entering into. You may not have to cover 110 laws on marriage, but at least as the couple comes to you, they should at least know what is the first law in canon law talks about in marriage. What does it say? And the first law, which begins in 1055, defines marriage in a very beautiful way. Remember, Vatican II defines that a community of love and life. Code of Canon Law brings about a beautiful element. The matrimonial covenant, marriage now becomes a covenant. And the term covenant normally means there is permanency in this thing. There is permanency till death do us part, by which a man and woman establish between themselves a partnership of the whole life, and which is ordered by its nature towards the good of the spouses and the procreation and education of children. The mission repeats itself. The mission of procreation and now of education of children, offspring that we get through this marriage. Catechism of the Catholic Church also uses the same definition to define marriage. John Paul II, in one of his documents, Family in the Modern World, teaches that the marriage and family has got only 4 tasks. Priests, the church teaches us, has got 5 tasks. We religious also have 4 tasks. Marriage has got 4 tasks, and 4 tasks, I mean job description. What is your job description in this institution that you've entered into? And he only gives us 4. It is good that we know what is our job description in marriage. Where does natural family planning really fall into? Which job description has got this extension of natural family planning? So the 4 tasks that are given to marriage and family, 1 is to form a community of persons through conjugal love. And conjugal love is basically the love that is shared between husband and wife. Sometimes it is called spousal love, sometimes it's called married love. The second task that is given to marriage and family is to procreate, serve life, and to educate the children. The primary task of couples is to procreate, serve life, and educate children. Catechists, teachers, pastors, we help you in your primary task of educating your children. Third, to participate in the development of the society, couples must work. We must work and put the food on the table and help in the development of the society. And fourth, to share in the life and mission of the church. You are called to be the domestic church in your family. The first place a child is supposed to know faith, to know God, to know church is not in the church itself, but first at home. You become the first domestic church. Through you, they're able to learn faith. We also have essential properties of marriage, things that make marriage what it is. Unity and indissolubility. You cannot dissolve marriage until death do us part. There is no divorce in the Catholic Church. Because of its covenantal nature, until death do us part. Then we have also the goods of marriage, and there are three. The good of children, procreation again comes in. Good of fidelity, faithfulness, and good of sacramental bond, where marriage is elevated to the level of sacrament, John 2, 1-11. Marriage attains grace. It's a grace-abiding sacrament. It also have realities. Now I'm putting pillows on top of this bed. It has realities. And the reality of marriage are two. We have conjugal love and responsible parenthood. In conjugal love, I always tell couples whom I prepare for marriage, it's like, let's say a mother is preparing a good meal. Let's say, take example of a chicken stew. If you're preparing chicken stew, there is fire, you use spices, you use onions, you use the chicken itself, you use the oil. That preparation of putting things together into a pot, resulting into a beautiful 5-course meal, can be compared to conjugal love. Conjugal love also compromises so many things. The couple must put so many things into this love. And one of them is what we call characteristics. One of the things that goes into that pot, the pot of love that you share as husband and wife, is what we call characteristics. The second, we have the principle. The third, we have the modes of love going into this pot. We have the language of love going into this pot. Yeah. We have responsible parenthood going into this pot. And within the responsible parenthood, you find the natural family planning going into that pot. So let's look at some of the characteristics that are very key for us if you practice natural family planning. Checklist if these things are there in this love that you share. One, the conjugal love possesses a characteristic of total self-give to the other. The couple must give each other totally without reservation. If you contracept, you violate these first characteristics of conjugal love. You are not giving yourself totally to your spouse. Total means you share everything with your spouse. The language of the body, John Paul talks about it. One flesh, total self-giving. In the event of contraception, there is a barrier, there is a third person. And I always tell, when I give session, I always tell, when you contracept, you are committing adultery very easily because you are bringing a third party in between in a very intimate, sacred act to break it. So already you violated the fidelity. The language of the body is actually spoiled. The second characteristic which goes into this conjugal love that you share is fully human. Fully human means you are sensitive to the needs of the other. When your spouse says, I'm having a headache, please believe she or he is having a headache. When your spouse says, I am broke, believe that this person is not having anything. Okay? Sensitive to the other. The third characteristic which goes to conjugal love is faithfulness and exclusive. Fidelity. One woman, one man, till death do us part. The fourth characteristic is fruitfulness, fertility, fruitfulness, openness to life. Every sexual act, and I don't call it sexual act in marriage, I call it every conjugal act, every marital act must be open to procreation. And you can only achieve that through the natural family planning. You can only achieve this one through the natural family planning. And the fifth characteristics of conjugal love is moral. You are called to make good moral choices. If your spouse is making a wrong choice, it is your duty to correct them so that they choose always good and avoid evil. That is what goes in that marriage in the name of characteristics. When we come to responsible parenthood, in which natural family planning actually stems from, we are reminded much on the teaching of Paul VI on his encyclical Humane Vitae on human life, number 10. And he defines responsible parenthood is actually defined as a mission, meaning marriage is ordered towards a mission. It is a mission, it is an office, it is a gift. It is a mission, it is an office, it is a gift, which come with all its job descriptions. It means that the couple have the knowledge and respect of the functions of the biological process. You are competent enough and able to understand the fertility cycle of your spouse very well, and respect your biological function. What is it meant for? Not for pleasure, but for procreation. It means the dominion of reason and will over tendency and instinct of passion and lust. You are able to reason out, not be driven by lust towards your spouse. You take your spouse not out of lust. And this reminds me of the prayer of Tobias and Sarah's marriage. It's a beautiful prayer there that you can get. You don't take your spouse out of lust, but out of the goodness of the Lord for a purpose. So this is the second part here, that we are able to master our passions and use reason. And reason will go definitely only when we are following the natural process. If there is a contraception, there is no reason, because every day it is like sex for pleasure. Your spouse become an object, not a human person. Responsible parenthood also calls you to consider the circumstances, and this is where the natural family planning is. And God gave us that natural way of taking care of choosing when to conceive and when not to conceive. Considering the situation is not good for us, then we follow this way that the Lord has given us, whether to avoid or get a new birth. It also calls for a relationship with the moral order and proper formation of conscience. And we can form our conscience teachings of the church, the scriptures, and sessions like this one, so that we always know what is the right thing to do and the wrong thing to avoid. Responsible parenthood also reminds the couple on their day of the exchange of vows in the celebration of sacrament and order of celebration of marriages, number 60, you promised publicly to people that you are able to accept the children that God will give you. And you're asked by the priest, are you prepared to accept children lovingly from God and bring them up according to the law of Christ and his church? And the answer, I want to presume, was yes, yes from the heart. So the principle that is key in responsible parenthood is unitive and procreative. Why the church insists that natural family planning should be followed is precisely because of this principle, inseparable principles. Because natural family planning respect and support this principle. Contraception violates this principle. It violates the language of the body, which is unitive, It violates, blocks procreation. So to keep this principle intact, the only method that is available, which is 100% effective, is natural family planning. Inseparable principle of responsible parenthood, unitive and procreative. Unitive, the language of the body, and procreative, openness to life. What violates inseparable principle? Contraception, abortion, infidelity, IVF. A child must be conceived through the natural process of conjugal act between spouses. The ends of marriage are procreation, education of children, mutual support of spouses, remedy of concupiscence, so that the others, you are able to help each other as you grow. Now, a little bit of facts of life. The second part is facts of fertility, facts of male and female. What does it tell to be a fertile male? What does it tell to be a fertile female? Or what's the difference between when we talk about a woman and a male? Now, for female and for male are always, they are blessed with fertility because of the Y chromosome. In fact, a man begins to produce his fertility, his fertile seed, as early as in adolescence, and that will take him throughout life. He's blessed with fertility. He's like a farmer. We compare a man like a farmer who is always having seed throughout the year. He can plant throughout the year, blessed with fertility because of the Y chromosome. When you come to, and if the seed of the man is actually what we call the sperm, which is the fertile sperm, a healthy sperm. And I mean a healthy sperm. You know, sometimes you have issues, but that's another case, goes for another case. Whereas when you come to a woman, we are beautifully created, and women are beautifully created with the science and the doctor inside, but our fertility is limited. And now people even debate because you have people getting pregnant as early as 9 years, but normally it was between early as 12 years, the beginning of fertility, when a girl reaches puberty, adolescence, when she starts getting her menses, beginning of 12 years was the average age, which actually goes through up to menopause, 45 to 52, depending again on the women. Some women enter menopause early, some enter menopause late. But basically for us women, our fertility is limited. And that is one thing that spouses ought to understand. And as much as it is limited, it is also endowed with time, seasons. There's season to plant and there's season to wait. So those seasons must be observed in a cycle of a woman. And one thing, a woman is only fertile in one particular fertile cycle in a month, between 6 to 8 days. I'm putting 8 days because we are counting also plus the time when the egg is passing from the ovaries coming down. Maximum 6 days in a month. That is the fertile period that a woman has. Most of the time, a woman is very acidic. And this is a good acidic because it's an antibiotic. Most of the time, a woman is free. If you're not planning to have a baby, you can have the conjugal act very comfortably using a natural process. So if only 6 days you are fertile, and the rest of the days, let's say you are free, why then do we have a problem with contraception? Is fertility cycle a disease to be treated? These are one of the questions we need to ask ourselves. Is it a disease to be treated? The answer is no. It is a gift. It's a free gift. And a gift that needs our reasoning to be able to follow. So a woman, our fertility is very limited. After the 6 days, after the egg is gone, we are back again to the process. And that is plenty of time that couples can have if they're not willing to have a child. But if they're having a child, those 6 days are the best day of achieving pregnancy. Now, as I said earlier, a woman's fertility is controlled by 2 hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and she produces an egg, a healthy egg. But again, for a woman, there are many things that we need to understand. What are these hormones responsible for? For instance, why we are talking about science when I'll begin to define natural family planning, because these hormones contribute a lot to what is happening in the life of a woman, what she's able to see happening in the changes that she goes through. For instance, if I just take estrogen, is what changes in a special way the mucus that is very key in natural family planning, to that alkaline, to that glucose that you are able to see, you are able to smell, and you're able to know that when I see this particular mucus, I am fertile. Estrogen is also responsible for a lot of things, including the breast development, including the vocal pitch. And that's why most of the time we'll see when a young girl is growing up, they have such a high tone of soprano, for those who have choir. And when a woman approaches somehow like menopause, when the estrogen starts going down, the voice also starts to change, responsible for also the vocal pitch of a woman and most of the things in a reproductive life. And then we have progesterone. Progesterone also changes, brings some changes into a woman's body, and basically in the terms of mucus, it changes the mucus into acidity. You'll see the different types of mucus and prepares the endometrium where the baby is supposed to plant in the uterus, and help also in the shedding of that endometrium, which we call menstrual period. So that comes after the ovulation. And they must balance. If they don't balance, then there are normally some issues. So estrogen is responsible for alkaline, the glucose one, which is favorable for sperms. When this mucus is present in a woman, it is the lifeline. In fertility, sperms can survive between 3 to 5 days inside a woman. So the fertility period is very key in that time. It is very favorable. If a woman does not see this alkaline mucus, then for sure there is no fertility which can take place. That mucus, I'll show you in a little while, is very important. You only need to see the signs on what is happening in your body. We also have other hormones that also work together with estrogen and progesterone, especially in triggering ovulation, and preparing the follicle to prepare in the ovary. And that is luteinizing hormone, which serves as a trigger. It is the ones which will tell after estrogen has prepared the ovaries very well, will actually trigger the egg to be released so that it can be fertilized if that is the time of fertilization. And we have another hormone, which is follicle, which is stimulating hormone, which prepares the ovary for ovulation, the process, so that the whole place can be ready for ovulation. Now, when you talk about ovulation, the ovaries produce over which are the female reproductive cells, while the male sperm producer starts at puberty. We already talked about that. About halfway through her mother's pregnancy, this is very important. The girl's ovary already in the mother's womb, the girl's ovaries contain 6 to 7 million future eggs. Sometimes people say, oh, my eggs are finished. I tell them, what is happening? What are you waiting for? It's long, my eggs are finished. Who tells you your eggs are finished? We're able to see, really, God has supplied enough eggs for women in both ovaries that only it ends by itself in menopause. Before menopause, how can you say your eggs are finished? What has finished your eggs? There are many, So at about halfway through her mother's pregnancy, the girl's ovaries contain 6 to 7 million future eggs, most of which they generate by time of birth. And when you talk about the fertility process of a woman, this is the old science behind it. That's why I was saying God created a woman with such particular science in regulating her fertility. The brain communicates, releases hormones. Hypothalamus communicates with pituitary, and there's communication from there between to the ovaries. There are hormones that always are released to be able to communicate the changes of ovaries, the changes of the cervical mucus, the changes of the endometrium, so that when there's conception, things follow the natural process. It is a particular order, and we could see how it is so complicated. That is why when a woman is stressed, One element, when a woman is stressed in the mind, it changes her cycle. The cycle changes when there's a lot of stress, because the whole thing is actually within the brain and there's a lot of communication going on. Now, this communication is not there for women who are contracepting. It's good to say this one. This communication is killed by contraception. There is no communication whatsoever. So at birth, we go back to the child, the girl child. At birth, each ovary contains about 200 to 400 immature eggs. And as the girl grows, some of these eggs die so that a number of ovary decreases progressively. At puberty, now approaching adolescence, the ovaries contain about 10,000 immature ovaries. In each egg is enclosed in a separate sac called primordial follicle. So at puberty, close to adolescence, a girl child has in both two ovaries 10,000 eggs this way, 10,000 eggs on the other side, which are at liberty to be fertilized, to be fertilized. So we have enough egg. A girl child will have enough egg to last her until menopause period. So there's no way somebody can say, I don't have eggs. She's 20 years old, 25, she's telling me she doesn't have eggs. That does not make sense. Yeah, because God, who created a woman, has created a woman with enough egg to life her fertile period. In counting the days that she'll even be seeing her menstrual period for wear and tear, you still can have a number of good children as much as you want. So then it's good to understand also, I bring that one, the fertile period of women, the average already talked about. And because of time, I moved to the end period of a woman's fertility is normally the menopause period. And that time is when both the estrogen as a hormone declines slowly by slowly. And when that happens, even the periods begin to disappear. And then complete menopause will come when in one complete year, that woman has not seen her period. So fertility ceases to be. Fertility ceases naturally. This is the way God created a woman to be. A woman is compared like a flower, which in the morning blooms beautifully with a beautiful fragrance. And as the sun goes by, she withers in the evening. While the man is compared to a farmer who has always a seed, we are compared like a flower. So beginning of life, human life, as all know, takes a moment when genetic information contributed by sperm from the father is combined with the genetic information contributed by ovum from the mother to a process called fertilization. For pregnancy to occur, this is important. For pregnancy to occur, these three things must be present. One, cervical mucus, not just any other cervical mucus. This mucus must be alkaline mucus. We'll see it. Not any other mucus, alkaline mucus, or what we call glucose mucus, which is favorable for the sperm to swim. And then we have a healthy sperm, and then we have a live egg. Those three conditions, it what make pregnancy to occur. If any of these conditions are not present, the natural conception will not take place. These three must be present. And this mucus is produced by the woman during her fertile and peak time of ovulation. So a woman, when in a time of fertility, looks basically like this. We have the ovary, we have the ovaries ripe, we have the seeds of the man, we have the cervix open, and what we have here is the alkaline mucus, which is favorable to transport sperm so that they can actually fertilize the egg. And estrogen is very much active. The hormone estrogen is very much active at that time. And the sperm can live with that kind of mucus 3 to 6 days inside the woman. Sometimes they even forget where they were sent to go because they enjoy the beauty of the glucose. They forget where they're supposed to go. They just dilly-dally there. So this is how God created this time, natural time, as it is. This is not achieved for a woman who is contracepting. All this is blocked. Yeah, all this is blocked. And so in a point in a fertile cycle, a woman experiences what we are seeing here. We have a moment when she's fertile, we have a moment when she's not fertile. And when she's fertile and she conceives, there will be a baby. If she doesn't conceive, the endometrial wall will actually shed itself in the form of menstrual period. And normally menstrual period is counted as a fertile period for some, because for women, the short cycles, and we discourage having conjugal act during that time. Women who have short cycles, their fertility normally begin before the period ends. So let's come to the natural family planning quickly. What we've been talking, we've laid our bed, now we can lie on it. It is safe enough. The first thing that you need to know in the natural family planning is the teaching of St. Paul VI in Humane Vitae number 16. He says that if there are well-grounded reasons for spacing birth arising from the physical, psychological condition of a husband or a wife, or from external circumstances, the church teaches that married people may then take advantage of the natural cycle immanent in the reproductive system and engage in a marital intercourse only during those times that are infertile, thus controlling birth in a way which does not at least offend the moral principle which we have been recalled earlier, unitive and procreative. You don't violate. So what is natural family planning? We come to the definition. Natural family planning is the general title for the natural. It observes natural science, that's why it's natural. Scientific, these natural science are being taken into scientific test and proven to be authentic, systematic, follows order, and moral methods of family planning that are 100% effective. And I would like to underline the word 100% effective in helping the married couple either achieve or postpone pregnancy. Natural family planning is 100% effective if used well by the spouses. It is based on observation. What are we observing? The signs, and interpreting of the natural occurring signs and symptoms of fertile and infertile phases of a woman's fertility. We have these signs with us. All we need to do is observe. And those who cannot observe, those who are gifted with sight to see can observe. Those who are not gifted with sight of seeing, they smell. In fact, I have one of my clients who is blind. She can smell a woman who is natural from a woman who is contracepting. Very powerful indeed. A woman who is contracepting passes through her, even passes on her. You tell your sister, this one is contracepting, this is natural. Powerful. You are able to smell. And when they are ovulating, they're able to differentiate this smell and feeling is actually of ovulation, because we're able to generate that beautiful odor of glucose. A natural woman smells sweet during the fertile period. Even if you put perfume, there's a natural distinct smell. Contracepting woman smells very acidic and repels the male. The smell of a contracepting woman is very different, and normally it turns the male off. And now the latest research we have is that even that synthetic hormone that women take, contraceptive women take, find their way into the water supply and is killing the fish. It's an ecological hazard. Through the urine, when the contraceptive woman urinates, and this urine finds its way to the water supply, it kills the fish. The fish is not able to reproduce whatsoever. If this thing can kill the fish, stop them from to produce, what about the human person who is using? What are they doing in the human person? The smell is different. Observation and interpreting the natural science. And it is these signs that, thanks God, now we have mobile. For those who don't have mobile, they can chart them on a piece of paper. For those who have the mobile, the calendar, if you can put these signs the way you are seeing them, we'll see that in a moment. What are the signs to look for? The first sign to look for is the mucus. Alkaline stroke acidic. This is the first key sign you need to look for. Sign you look for, mucus. This is different from vaginal fluids and other things. The mucus, and there is a litmus test. If you put it in water, the other one will sink, the other one will float. So the mucus, around the fertile period, the woman generates estrogen, triggers a mucus called alkaline or glucose, and the cervix opens for procreation to take place and is far to reach. And the start of the mucus before ovulation or after ovulation, there is a type of mucus that also a woman generates. So when a woman is fertile, this is the mucus that I wanted to share with you. This is what we call the mucus at peak period, the glucose. Every woman, you will feel like there's water pouring. You just have to be observant of your body. You will feel it like pouring, because when the mucus leaves the cervical area, it comes like water. When you break an egg, it is the raw egg white. Similarly, it pours. Sometimes it can even comes up to the thigh here. When you see this particular mucus, you are fertile, you are at your peak period. This is absent in women who are contracepting. This is the sign that God gave us, natural sign of seeing who we are in our fertile phase. When we are not fertile, we see this particular mucus. It's called acidic, the antibiotic, if you want another name for it. This one kills any germs that could come in to enter, blocks the cervix so that there is not even sperms can penetrate, kills the sperms on spot, because that time God says it's not time for procreation. The egg has already passed. The woman, it's time for rest and prepare for the next phase. We have this kind of mucus. It's called acidic mucus. It is gluey, it's scanty. To some men, it is just a thick like a ball, it drops. That's why I say natural family planning is just a tissue away. When you go to the toilet, every time you visit a toilet, you wipe yourself front, back. What do you see? What do you see? Use your eyes, see that whatever is in your tissue, run it through your nose if it has a smell. And if you have an infection, the smell from the mucus will be different. Look at the color, look at the texture. Our eyes were given for us to see. If we are able to see the beauty of creation, if we are able to see the different colors, why is it that we are not able to see that which comes from our own body? And maybe somebody will ask me, can it be practiced by our sisters and who are actually not gifted by the gift of sight? The answer is yes. In fact, they are the best. I have them, I follow them, they are the best. For them, they don't see what you see. They use from the tissue, they use their hand. They smell it and know acidity, the difference between acidity and glucose and alkaline. They're able to see. They touch it, they feel it. So every woman experiences mucus. Every woman, unless you have a condition that is even on your dry period, the mucus may not appear on the valve outside. It is inside, and we discourage you putting your hand there because you can put infection, because if you don't practice hand hygiene, it is not advisable to use your hand there, even as a couple. You must be able to use hand hygiene first before you touch your spouse, because that place is so delicate that any germs from your fingers can create a whole infection around there. So hygiene before conjugal act, hygiene before you do anything down there is important. And so therefore the safest for you is the tissue. Natural family planning is just tissue. Every time you visit the toilet, observe what you see, interpret what you see, record what you see. It's as simple as that. And so that the second mucus that you will see, remember I told the woman is fertile for maximum 6 days in a month. When the Lord selects the egg for that month, This is the type of mucus you'll see. When there's no activity, this is the mucus you'll see, gluey, scanty, and hard. When the egg is selected for this month, in his wisdom, estrogen begins to trigger the change of mucus. You'll see it looks like a thick lotion, white in color, thick lotion and white in color, and elastic. If you see a mucus which is not elastic, if you stretch from the tissue, you put the tissue together and you stretch and it is breaking up, then it means that, you are not fertile. If you are fertile, it is very stretchy, elastic, because those are the lines upon which the sperm swims. So they are beginning to create the lines. So you stretch it with your hand, index finger and the thumb finger, the way it's shown there. From the tissue, you are able to do all this thing. Then it becomes thinner. We are approaching ovulation. The egg is ripening. Can you get pregnant here? The answer is yes. The egg is ripening. And that is the peak, the alkaline mucus, which you'll see at the peak of your ovulation. When the egg is released from the ovary, it's one of the most beautiful experiences a woman can ever experience in this lifetime, because you feel it. You feel the stitch. It is kicked like a ball through your fallopian tube all the way down. You will not see it when it falls down, but the feeling is there. The feeling of sensation is right there. When you're feeling the feeling of sensation down there, it means you are fertile. The second thing you need to look at is a sensation which is produced by this mucus in the vulva outside your vagina. As you go your daily duties, you'll feel it. Sometimes it is wet, sometimes it is sticky, depending from a particular woman to the other woman. And we encourage, please try as much as possible not to use very tight pants. If you use tight pants, you will not see this, feel the sensation very well. If you use some pants which are not correct and they're in the market there, you will not feel this one very well. Loose pants are able to give you what you're looking for, not just so that you're able to observe and feel and let the flow take its course. Appearance, it's very important. What does it look like? What is the color you see? If it is not white, if it is green, that's another issue. If it is red, there's another issue. That's a medical issue. You need to be able to check with your gyna if it has changed it means that there is an infection somewhere. The fertility mucus needs to keep its color, which is white, creamy, white and creamy. Another sign we need to look for, which accompanies the sign, the mucus, is the temperature. When a woman is ovulating, her temperature goes up. And it is now being proven that it goes from 0.4 to 0.6 degrees Fahrenheit. It elevates itself. And it will stay like that during ovulation and after ovulation, and it drops when the next period begins. If there is no fertilization took place, it will not drop until delivery. So that's why sometimes when a woman is ovulating, they want to remove the jacket, they remove the jacket, you see them trying to, get some air, they're feeling hot, you touch their body, their hand is very warm, yeah? It normally is because of the estrogen during the ovulation, raises the temperature high. That's another natural sign that God gives to the natural woman. Besides the mucus, we have also the temperature. And most of the methods that we have of natural family planning are based on these signs that we see here now. Each one person comes with the sign of the mucus, studies that one comes with a method, the other one used another sign and study and comes with a method. We have methods on temperature method, we have methods on mucus method, and we're able to see. Another symptom, and this is what I was talking about on temperature rise, that the temperature will rise during the fertile period, yeah, and then will start to drop when you begin your next period, yeah, when we begin your next period. And if you get pregnant, the temperature remains constant. Another change that we are called to look for in our fertility, which is natural also, God in his wisdom created a woman also to observe the cervix. Now, this is one of the latest research we are having right now, and there's a lot of debate about it. You have to maintain highest standard of hygiene on your fingers if you have to observe this one, because the cervix, meaning that you are able to feel the cervix. There is the way the cervix behave before when you're fertile and the way before when you're after you are not fertile. So during infertile time, the cervix is low. It comes very low. You can reach it with your index finger, yeah, if you squat, very low, and it is closed and firm. And you normally you feel it like the tip of the nose, your nose up here. It feels like a nose. And as I said, you must observe the highest hygiene of the hand to do that. So the cervix becomes lower, descends low, and closes itself and is firm. And then around the time of ovulation, the cervix is high. You cannot reach it. Opens the door for sperms to come and is soft, and it's normally compared to the chin down here. When it is, when you are infertile, it is hard as a nose. When you are fertile, it is as soft as your chin. Now that is how the cervix changes during our, also the natural fertility. When you are infertile, it descends low and very hard. When you are fertile, it goes up, opens its door, the ooze opens up, and is very soft. And then after the ovulation, it also descends again and it's closed up and very, very hard. Another sign that we are given naturally to observe is the breast tenderness and abdominal pain. Yeah, when you are at the time of fertility, you'll feel your breasts are full and they're tender. No, they feel full, and you'll feel some minor pain, abdominal pain, just a little pain down there, especially during the time of ovulation. So it is not stomachache, it is a pain that is like when the ovary is released from the ovary, you feel that pain. That is another sign that we are given naturally. These are the methods of natural family planning that we have currently. The cervical mucus, there are quite a number of providers. We have the billing methods, we have the Creighton fertility care system method. There are quite a number of methods with the different approaches on how to observe the cervical mucus, but the main approach of alkaline and acidic mucus does not change. Yeah. The different methodology are there to interpret, but the same sequence follows in the same line. So, and I follow the order according to which I am able to use them on my line of work and the way they work for me. This is and the people that I guide, the highest people that I have that I guide are on cervical mucus method. Yeah, that's why it is top of the list. This is the way I use it to teach people and to help other people. But it can follow any other order. A woman can choose any of these things. So we have 6 currently. And the cervical mucus method, ecological breastfeeding, which has been there since time memorial. And they said the word here is what is key. When you talk about ecological breastfeeding, I'm not talking about cultural breastfeeding. I'm not talking about exclusive breastfeeding. I'm talking about ecological breastfeeding. It has its standards, 7 standards to follow. In the sense that when a woman breastfeeds a baby, exclude for 6 months following the 7 standard method guideline, that woman will not receive her menses for a particular period of time. It's because the frequent suckling of the baby normally suppresses ovulation in women. And when there's no ovulation, there's no fertility. And it works. It has been there. It is not something new. And it is very beneficial for the baby and also for the mother. The calendar method, some of women are using calendar method, and now even we have them in our phones, you know. And then we have the cycle bead methods also that is in use, especially in part of Turkana, it is used a lot. We have the symptothermal methods. This is using a combination of temperature. They maximize so much on the temperature, and you have to have a thermometer with you. And also the mucus. They use the combination of thermometer and and mucus. And we have the BBT, which is the basal body temperature method, that is basically on temperature alone and does not look at the mucus. Now, the Catholic Church in her wisdom, and this is the list is going on. People are coming with new methods and easier ways of actually, understanding natural family planning, and it has really moved ahead. It has really gone far ahead, making it even more modern for the modern user. And in case of infertility treatment, again, something which actually the Catholic Church has done, the best kept secret of the Catholic Church is what now we call NAPRO technology, 100% effective than IVF. When people always ask the church, give us alternative, give us alternative. What is the alternative for IVF from the church? NAPRO technology. Many of the Catholic doctors, even in Kenya here, are aware, being trained on this one, and it is available. You can be guided on this one if you have issues of infertility treatment, because the church does not support IVF. The church supports NAPRO technology. Why? NAPRO technology respects the unitive and procreative element of principles of responsible parenthood. So cervical mucus, basically observing, interpreting, recording, if you have to record the patterns and changing of the cervical mucus. And again, you can see the way the hand is going, the fertile phase, when you dump white, scanty. I use this a lot, so you'll find it, I'm going over it over and over. And then if you have to mark your chart on your phone, you can just use the normal, your calendar. You can just use the normal, your calendar, or you get a chart if you want, your normal calendar for those. But I tell you, even the women who are not educated, because I go to rural areas, the women who are educated, they cannot write, they cannot read, they just see. Observing these things, they are able to follow the methods very effectively. That is the breastfeeding that I'm trying also to, number 2 on my list, And the key factor here in breastfeeding is basically frequent suckling. Frequent suckling of the baby, frequent suckling. And those are the 7 standards. Breastfeed exclusively for the first 6 months. Don't offer your baby other liquids and solids, not even water. Pacify and comfort your baby at your breast. When you're shaking the baby, don't shake them in the trolley on your breast here. Don't use bottles and don't use pacifiers. Sleep with your baby for night feedings. Sleep with your baby for daily nap feeding. Nurse frequently day and night and avoid schedules. Avoid any practice that restricts nursing and separate you from the baby. What are the benefits? It helps the baby to grow and to avoid having all these infections that are put here. This is well researched by John and Sheila Kipley, and there's a follow-up program of this one, and it's working very well. It's actually, it's a true testimony. A baby who is well breastfed is free from all those you're seeing there. What about the mother? The benefit of a mother who breastfeeds, you are free from breast cancer. The chances of breast cancer for breastfeeding mother is very nil. Even endometrial cancer, ovarian cancer, thyroid cancer. So it is very beneficial also for the mother. Yeah, and that is proven by the World Cancer Research Fund. When they give us the report on this one, they've actually testified this one, that breastfeeding actually has a lot of benefit for both mother and the baby. And it suppresses fertility. Then symptothermal is combining daily waking temperature. You check your temperature in the morning when you're still lying on the bed. And then also you check the cervical mucus, and the basal body temperature thermal is actually basically for the temperature alone, observing the changes of the temperature. This other one, symptom, is combined with mucus. Then we have the calendar one. This was the first one, which came to us from 1924, has been in time, and we have people who are using it faithfully, the calendar method that is used. Yeah, so you can choose what works for you, as long as it respects the unitive and procreative principles of responsible parenthood. Who can use NFP? Anybody can use NFP. Anybody, any woman created by God can use natural family planning. Types of fertility, we fall under these 4. Short cycle, which now, because of the change of lifestyle, 19 to 23. Medium cycle, which we call regular, 24 to 30. Long cycle, 30 to 40 or 5 weeks onwards. And of course, we have irregular cycles. These are the cycles that we have. All these people can use natural family planning. Basically, that is what I'm trying to explain here. And the phases of each cycle, is 4. Pre-ovulation phase, the fertile phase, together with the peak post-ovulation phase. And this is how the temperature method goes. It goes high and drops. Luteal phase is the most favorable time if you're not looking for a baby. You know, I said it starts from 10 or 11 to 16 days before you get your next period. And it's very constant. It's very constant. It doesn't change. If it changes, then there's a problem with fertility. Probably we need to check what is causing this one to change. What can affect fertility of a woman? Stress. Stress is the major cause of which can affect that fertility cycle, so that when you can become a short, or you can become a long if you are stressed. Stress, if you are grieving, anxiety, because I told you everything is in the head, mind of a woman, the communication takes there. If you are sick, if you are taking drugs, travel, diet, strenuous exercises, breastfeeding is also affect, because it's actually used as it suppresses ovulation. What can destroy and kill fertility? There is one which can change, regulation pattern, but what can destroy and kill fertility? Abortion, contraception. On any other method you see of contraception, it kills and destroys fertility. It is surprisingly that some of the contraception which is not used in the Western world or the European world, like the Depo-Provera, here our women are using, is there, they are doing it, they use it to castrate dogs, and here our women are using it for contraception. You can imagine what is meant for dog. In Africa, we are given, the women are taking it to treat fertility, as if fertility is a disease to be treated. In the process, a lot of things are happening. And the Bible reminds us on Genesis 38, the first incident where we find God condemning contraception is on Onan incident. You can read it by yourself. Onan refused to follow the instructions that the Lord laid, and the Lord killed him. And Pope Paul VI gave us a prediction that if we say yes to contraception, we lower morality. That's what we are seeing. Everybody is crying. Less respect for women, they'll be treated like object. Governments will take over control on our sexuality, and that's why now the bill is there. Bodies become machines. He warned us 1968. We are now living that one because of this one. Yeah. And the purpose of contraception is basically to separate intercourse from procreation and unitive. And that's what you see. It actually blocks. You can see it in a picture more beautifully. Separates. Once you separate the unity from procreation, you have separated the whole essence of married life. You brought a third party in between. And so you have some side effects. You have a spouse who is like this, who is contracepting, with all sorts of side effects. Blood clots, the legs are swollen, one way or the other. Migraines, because the pituitary gland has been suppressed, is not able to communicate. High blood pressure, ovarian cyst, liver tumors, stroke. There are so many side effects that actually affect the natural fertility of the woman. In the first leading one, actually for injectable, is breast cancer. And we are crying. Why are we crying? We are crying because I remember I read in Professor Mangari's Madare Wangare when she was doing this forestation. She said something that I'll never forget. Nature is unforgiving. Nature is unforgiving. You interfere with nature, nature will pay back in the worst way. And these are the consequences that we are reaping for interfering with that which is so natural, a gift given to us to be able to use. You have a woman suffering from all this. Can she be a wife? Not possible. So we say our objection is we stop contraception and use the natural method that God has given us. And it is effectiveness, it's 100% effective, and teaches the couple to understand not only each other, but to their fertility. It has got no side effect. It is cost-free. There is no much cost you're paying there. Disadvantage, it needs cooperation between husband and wife. That's why I said it is a method of love and life. So if there's no cooperation, that's why most people say it, they say normally this is difficult. But if you love somebody, we understand them. We're able to communicate with them so that we're able to know what is going on in their life. And of course, the church teaches, the beginning of the church teaching on contraception goes back to 1930. You can read that on yourself. I'll be able to give notes, where contraception was banned by Pope Pius XI. He condemned it. When other our Christian brothers in faith accepted contraception, the Catholic Church says no. Remember that time already we had the calendar method going on. Yeah. Then we have Pope Pius XII also adding his voice, condemning contraception and allowing couple to use the natural method. Vatican II also encouraged couple to use the natural method. Paul VI in Humane Vitae also said we need to use natural method and avoid contraception. John Paul II in Familiarity Consortio also added his voice on using natural method and actually be maintaining the principle between unitive and procreative. And finally, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, I'll read this one as I conclude. A particular aspect of this Christian responsibility concerns the regulation of births. For just reasons, spouses may wish to space the birth of their children. It is their duty to make certain that their desire is not motivated by selfishness, but is in conformity with the generosity of appropriate to responsible parenthood. Catechism number 2368. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Back to Paul. Paul, are you there? Paul?
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah, I think I have, I want to send it back to you now.
Thank you. Thank you. So I will thank you for that presentation, sister.
There's a problem.
Okay, there is something I'm trying to do. Sorry, I want to call Robert and Joyce to make their comments because sister has done quite a lot about this subject. So Robert and Joyce, karibuni.
So thank you very much. And sister, thank you so much for that detailed presentation and sharing. Like Peter Paula said, I believe majority of what we'll do is just comment. So by way of introduction, my name is Robert.
And I'm Joyce.
And united by the love of Christ, we share one name.
We are minors. And this is our 10th year. Friends of St. Paul.
Yes, in addition to that, we attend Holy Trinity Catholic Church. We're also members of Marriage Encounter. Marriage Encounter encourages couples to live their married life the way God has intended. And when we were asked to, we do facilitate during premarital class, and we give introductory discussions on natural family planning. And we do this because we are practitioners. Joyce and I, we the minors, are practitioners. We practice natural family planning, and we give also our experiences. By way of just proceeding with this, we prepared a few slides which would like to share with you. So we'll ask to share the screen. And from this, we will try and just go quickly to the areas that probably Sister had not covered. Maybe as Joyce is, yes, on understanding natural family planning. So, like we've said, it has been well covered that, you know, the sexual union is meant, of course, to express the full meaning of a couple's love. But there is the procreative and the unitive aspects, and the openness, which brings the binding the couple together, and the openness to love, which is what ourselves is what we live by, and is what we did have experienced. And you know, when we made those vows, we did promise to give ourselves fully to each other. And there's that need for openness to life with every sexual act, we have to say. And that even during, when we're giving these premarital classes, and when we're sharing, we've had severally from priests saying that, you know, that there cannot be any consummation in a marriage if then you're using contraception. So even from perspective of consummation, and I would welcome a comment probably later, the element of consummation would not be there, use of those. So we did discuss about the methods of natural family planning, but the one we will talk about, of course, is the mucus only method, which is what is open to us, and what we principally use. So a lot of what Sister had discussed, we can want to maybe add that as we practice ourselves, we've been able to see, you know, these flows and change in mucus during that fertility cycle. And it has not always been that way for ourselves, of course, to begin with, and we can share part of our experience. When we got our first child, you know, there was that pressure when we visited our gynecologist as a young couple. And we went through this discussion about spacing our kids and everything. And need to be, of course, it was more of an economic discussion. And to be frank, at that time, we had not gone through classes about natural family planning. And we easily took on board using contraceptive, you know, But a few months after that, and we sought out to learn about natural family planning, because being credo Catholic, being brought up, this was not in line with what we were feeling is, is right. And in addition to that, it probably was also not going well with my spouse. It wasn't going well. The contraceptions were not going well with my spouse, with Joyce. And we were feeling that this is not the best way for us to proceed. So because of this, we were now transiting from a point where Joyce is using contraception to going into natural ways. And for quite a while, that mucus was not visible, And also we were getting something, probably as you proceed in learning this, called double infertility signs. Yeah, we're not sure whether the fertility has come back and what have you, because you're transiting from using contraception into the natural methods. So, but when we did, we were able now to observe clearly, and the fertility cycle presented itself, and we were able to clearly see the signs that presented themselves during, as we use natural family planning. So something else that I would probably, let me welcome Joyce to make a comment.
Yeah, natural family planning is quite interesting, and for me, I would say
We can't hear you, Joyce.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now you're audible.
Okay. So I'm saying that for me,
Bado usikiki, move closer to mic.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
Much better. All right. Natural family planning has been a blessing to me and for us as a couple, because initially, before natural family planning, just as Robert has said, we were actually, I was on contraception, and the contraception that I was using back then was the pill, and for me, the pill was not very effective in terms of it was effective because we were not getting pregnant, but it was not working for me, because sometimes I would get abnormal bleeding. Many expect that once you're on contraception, sex will you'll be able to have the conjugal love anytime and all the time. But just as sister said, sometimes this contraception, they come with their own side effects. So one of the side effects for me was the irregular, bleeding. And when bleeding comes as a woman, you're very uncomfortable, even during that time of conjugal love. So it was not available most of the time. Those are the times when I would get abnormal headaches, so that I don't get to, participate in the conjugal act. So with natural family planning, for us, we got to learn about it after our first baby, because our first baby, we got them just like that. And then before the second baby, we were already practicing natural family planning, which we learned from the church, from the then family life coordinator. We were living in Mombasa. It was called Victor Nyange, and he was able to take us through this program. We took it for about 3 months, and we saw that it was the right approach for us, and we started on it. And on starting on it, for the first 3 months, we were not seeing any change. We kept on telling him what we are observing and what we are seeing. The mucus, I think the effects of the pill was still there, so we were not able to see the fertile sign, the clear mucus. So we were there, we were accepting it, we continued trying, but we were also doubting it somehow. So what I can encourage, especially couples who are listening today and ladies, that once you start natural family planning, it's something that for sure you need to give yourself time. Don't expect you drop the pill today or whatever contraception you're in and expect that tomorrow you'll start seeing the fertility sign. I agree that different women experience different, their bodies react differently, but give yourself time and your body will never lie to you. Just as sisters say, these are God-given signs and they happen naturally, you know? We all experience this mucus, the change in mucus, but they tend to change depending on how we affect them. Like if you take the pill or we do other things that affect the mucus. So when we started, actually for us, we started, I remember the excitement even of seeing the first fertility, the mucus, because that was after more than a year. It was, I think, 1 year, 6 months down the line. That was when I think I could say fertility was back fully, because now that's when I could clearly see it, and you know, I could also see the difference now from the fertility moving to the infertile phase and all that. So it was quite an exciting time for us, or for me.
Yeah, what you can add with natural cooperation is essential.
Robert, usikiki.
Okay, let me just pull back the filter. Is that any better?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Continue checking in on our voice. Cooperation is essential because it's a joint responsibility as a spouse, as opposed to, you know, the woman just taking care of herself. And, you know, sometimes when I used to talk to my peers when I was not practicing this, and we'd have a casual discussion about the number of children to have and what have you, and I would bring that up. They'd say, no, that is the, even some senior men that say, but that is the woman who decides. What do you have to do anything? And you can see that this is not a full responsive answer to someone who's aspiring to family life, really. So what we say is that cooperation is essential. And because we are talking about our joint fertility, and couples choose, also may choose natural family planning and may go the natural way, because automatically it will bring about cooperation within their marriage. If there's anything you have to really do discuss, and it contributes to a couple's growth. As a couples, we have to talk about living in tune with our fertility, the phases in the cycle where we are. And it does make very radical demands of the relationship, because it takes time for couples to adjust. It's a way of living. And there's no other way, to be honest, at the end of the day. If you want to be in tune, you know, with your conscience and how you've developed as a Christian, and particularly so even a Catholic for that matter. And you know, but if we see from the time we started using natural methods, we can say that our intimacy also did improve, and there's been greater communication amongst us.
The natural family for us has been very good, because in improving our communication and intimacy, it's become like a lifestyle. You know, once you choose natural family planning, it's something that you need to be prepared, because first of all,
you have to move closer again, Joyce.
I was very excited knowing that we are working together with Robert in this natural family planning. You know, unlike the pill, when I went even to get it, he was not aware. But I was, of course, I told him I was on a pill. But even the choice of that contraception, it's not a decision that we had agreed on. But you see, unlike natural family planning, we had to attend the classes together. We have the natural family planning culture that we normally say, where I check. My work is just to check and tell him. He's the one who keeps the books. He's the one who records. And it's a good culture because guess what? For a man who is keen in the relationship, they would want to know how was the day, you know, because before any intimacy, before any conjugal love, you need to know the position that you are, because you already know whether you want to achieve pregnancy or to avoid. So it's important to know where you are. So it's something that you have to do on a daily basis. I know we like apps that maybe alert us, but sorry to say that with natural family planning, there's no app that would work for you, because no app will tell you today you're experiencing a fertile or not fertile. You need to check. So it's something that you need to do, and you need to work, both of you. There's no way natural family planning would work if it's just the woman alone.
Yeah, many of the times when I also I will remind my spouse, you know, so what is it? What's the position? Because couples are not expected to leave the size of their family champ. Like sister said, it's 100% effective. But we have to also be open. As a couple, there are times we are ambivalent. Yeah, we are not very keen on what is the outcome, and we may break the rules. Like we told you, we do during introduction. We had 3 children. We had our firstborn, who turned 10 earlier this year, and we used to admire having a girl after that. We were familiar with the natural family planning, and also, of course, we were familiar with the advantages of how you can even go about sex selection as one of the advantages of natural family planning. Although we didn't choose that, we were praying for a girl and to have one. We were very grateful when our second born was, we conceived our second born 3 years after that, and we did get one. And immediately after that, because and reported that the girl was not too keen on breast milk, Joyce's fertility came back very quickly. And, you know, we like to share this story and say that we did go out for a weekend together, and all the signs were there of the fertility and the time in the fertility cycle. But we were ambivalent, and much as we felt that, yes, the family is complete with having 1 boy and 1 girl, we had our 3rd child, and that's why even the spacing between our 2nd and 3rd born is just a year. And at this time, we would feel that, you know, there was a crisis amongst us, you know. It's not something we had planned. It was something that was a lot of pressure. We were feeling the other baby is still very young. We've not given them enough attention even before we get another one. And the like, financially, it's going to be a strain on us, because as men, we start bringing out the calculators very quickly and start thinking about, now do we need to move to a bigger house or get this and that, school fees, and the like. But, you know, frankly, having experienced having 2 children or 3, what we can just say it as, we just created more love in the family. It is not like you feel that you're crowded. No, actually, had we known, we'd even have planned for more children. earlier in our marriage. So these crises do occur in couples as well if you're ambivalent and not following the rules the way it's supposed to be. So it's something that, and you can find that a partner can be resentful of and natural family planning and saying that maybe it does not work or the like. But it's nothing to do with the failure of natural methods. It will be because of the ambivalence of couple itself. So we wanted to share that as our discussions, as part of the discussion so far. Give our experience in using natural family planning. And yeah.
I think when it comes to natural family planning, we must agree that it has its rules, and its rules.
Move closer.
I'm saying when it comes to natural family planning, we must agree that it has its rules, and these rules are the ones maybe, especially I think in life, people don't like rules. People don't like, even like currently, people don't like the curfews. They don't like, these restrictions. But with natural family planning, it comes with its rules. And if you see the signs and it tells you it's fertile phase, and you try and say, let's just try, maybe it will not happen. Chances are it will definitely happen, and you're going to have a baby. Like for us, just as Robert has said, our last baby, last one, who is 6 years now, that's what exactly happened. When you took this holiday, we had all the signs, but since we had gone on that weekend out, we said that let's just go ahead and have fun. And definitely we came back with him, and we thank God for him. So most people would drop out of natural family planning because of such an occurrence. But what we can say, just as Sister said, natural family planning is 100% effective, but you have to follow the rules. Yes.
But also as a larger Christian society, we're called to offer support because, our society does not have a very positive
Move, my friend.
Our society may currently not have a positive view of having more children. So, the message from the church and in the church's wisdom is having that openness to more children, if you're able to have them, but also offering support to those who are going through similar situation. And not, throwing side comments as you would get maybe from colleagues or from your peers, about the number of children. Do not be part of the crowd. Be the part that supports celebrating children, and supporting couples as you see them having these children. Yes.
Yeah, it's true, because I remember when I was expectant with the last one, and the other one was just year old. Then you would ask another one, and you'd feel as a young couple, you feel so embarrassed. Am I at this age,
Mkumbali.
Yeah. Why are you getting so many babies? And it was a bit of a challenge, even accepting, especially during that time. So it's important that we encourage each other. And you see, what we've been called to do, especially in our vows. We did our vows, and they were very clear that we give ourselves totally, and totally means also the gift of fertility. And just as we know that fertility is both ways, the man and the woman together, combined fertility. And this combined fertility means that we also take combined responsibility of whether achieving or avoiding pregnancy. So, the female body is cyclic, just as Sister has taught us, it has its own cycle. Today you're fertile, tomorrow you're not. but the male is fertile throughout. So when you take the contraception actually takes care of the male pattern. And you see, the person who suffers the most at the end of it all is the woman, because you're the one who's taking the contraception. I keep on asking myself sometimes, even joke with Robert here sometimes, that why is it that not this contraception, yeah? Because the man is the one who's fertile throughout. Why don't we get a contraception for them? Because you see, for us, it's sure that, you know, we are cyclic, so it comes and goes. But you see, I don't know, for some reason they chose that women are the ones who should bear this. And
neither is it. It's a contraception on either side.
Can't hear you.
So I think, Paul, with that, and in respect of time, there's so much you could have shared that we can pause there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert and Joyce, from practical experience. You know what's been happening around is because nobody earns money by teaching or by practicing natural family planning, nobody talks about it. All the other people give it negative publicity, because if they give it positive publicity, it means nobody is going to buy their merchandise. And that's the big problem. And that's why I think we need to do more work. I know there are lots of questions. We had intended to start questioning time from around 3:30, but it's all the same. Very good, in very good faith. We still are open to questions. For people who have questions, please just unmute yourself and say, speak out your question and or comment briefly, and the panelists will try to answer them as to the best of their knowledge. And I appreciate somebody has been really trying to answer questions from the chats. That's very
It's
good.
me.
Whoever
It is
you are,
me,
thank you.
actually. I'm Sister Florence. I'm the one answering some of them.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that we remove the backlog, you know, because we have a lot of questions coming in. And but I would like really to thank Joyce and the Maina family. I think that is their family name, for the wonderful, you know, witness and testimony. We need people like you to come out to give other couples the morale and the stamina to be able, and the courage really to embrace this natural method. Without you, much as we are able to tell them, when we don't have live testimony, sometimes we fall short. So I really appreciate your presence here, and thank you very much, and continue with the good work. But through your talk, there was a statement that Joyce made, and really which caught me to be able to respond. One, Joyce, I would like to just assure you and tell you that whenever somebody is contracepting, it is not called conjugal love or conjugal act, because it has already violated what conjugal act is all about. That is called having sex for pleasure. We can call it sex for pleasure, but not conjugal act. Conjugal love and conjugal act is solely reserved for couples practicing natural family planning. If you are not practicing natural family planning, you are not engaging on conjugal love, you are not engaging on conjugal act. You are engaging on sex pleasure only. It remains at a pleasurable level. Second thing you talked about, which also I've experienced with many couples that come off pill and I'm guiding, is that immediately you come off pill, that we have a nutrition that needs to take place, what we call detox, between 3 to 6 months before you can, the body returns to normal. This is very important. You cannot come off the pill immediately and get the immediate sign, because the too much toxic synthetic hormones in your bloodstream takes time to come out. By the time they come out, and if you get pregnant immediately, it will also affect the fetus one way or the other. So we encourage, when you come off pill, please detox. And if you need those nutrition for detoxing, please, you can get in touch with me. You detox between 3 to 6 months until you are able to see the clear and the body is cleared from all these toxic synthetic hormones before you can have natural family planning. That is what we are putting forward. Again, there was a question, withdrawal method. Is it a contraception? Is it a natural family planning method? Withdrawal method used by many couples is a contraception. It is not natural family planning. It is what we call onanism. That is what made God killed Onan. He withdrew his seeds. Instead of ejaculating inside, ejaculated out. It is a contraception. Total self-gift means that you give everything plus the seed. So if you withdraw out, you are contracepting. You are actually going against procreation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sister. And I know there are many other questions. You'll be seeing them on the chat. Anybody who wants to ask a question or give a comment at the moment, please, you're free.
Hi, Paul. Just a quick one. This is Eric. Is it possible to access the recording and the presentation used? We joined a bit late and we missed a bit from the beginning. Thank you.
Yes, you will get it. You can just email us. I've given an email address in the chat. Then I'll email you the link. I'll email you the link. It's also on Facebook Live at the moment, so it will also stay there. Thank you very much. I also see Rosalinda Bunde wants to ask something. Your hand is up. Kindly speak, unmute and speak.
Yes. Now I am interested in knowing how a couple that has just gotten a baby, and probably the lady has taken time to have her periods. I think sister can answer this. And, now you're still trying to understand your fertility, because after delivery, it takes time for your cycle to normalize. So how are you supposed to do NFP after? Because I think it gets a bit confusing at that period. And also, if you have irregular periods, so what do you do with the charting?
Thank you very much, Rosalinda. Sister will respond. Maybe we pick another one so that she can respond to two. Seminarian Peter. Seminarian Peter, go ahead, ask your question. I don't seem to be getting you. I don't know whether you're asking.
I'm asking a question.
You are not very audible. You are very far.
What about now?
Yes, now you can speak. Thanks.
Now, I was asking that maybe I have heard that maybe breastfeeding the child for the first 6 months can be very important for the future of that child and even for the future of the mother. But what about the women who are affected by or infected by HIV and they are HIV positive, where they have bad? What about the kids? How are they going to have such a kid, or so that they can prevent them from the same cases of diseases?
I think you're done. Sister, you can now pick it up.
Okay, I'll start with the... Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll start with the first question, especially on breastfeeding. And I would want to believe that she breastfed faithfully, following the 7 standard, and the period has not has remained not to come on time. The body by itself, when the baby starts to wean, after 6 months, when the child begins to start weaning and eating, and the taste bud is changed from the suckling, the fertility is supposed to gradually start ordering itself to return. And that can take a period of between 1 to 2 years, even 3 years as it is coming. Some women even go 4 years. But in the event that there is an interruption in breastfeeding, and I mean any interruption, it could also be as simple as the baby was crying and then you are not there to pacify the baby. Immediately the baby makes that cry and you're not around in that environment, your fertility will return and there will be a confusion. You think you are breastfeeding faithfully, but there is a moment you didn't follow the correct rule and you're now feeling some changes taking place. That is why now we tell when you're breastfeeding and your fertility has returned, also for the working mothers, it is important also to combine it with the Mucus method. You observe the Mucus method. So you don't only use the breastfeeding alone because of the change. As long as the change has happened, it is also a change in your fertility. You see the signs. Your fertility will return. Once the period begins, you must combine what you're doing with the Mucus method so that you follow the Mucus method together with the breastfeeding. The other question was on discordant couple, the couple one which is HIV positive and has delivered a baby. I think what they normally do, the mother is put on ARV and they discourage breastfeeding precisely because when the baby starts growing the teeth and then is suckling the mother, there could be damages from the teeth, the bleeding things or biting that can cause problems. So normally there is a discourage of breastfeeding such children and then they are given some formula. But if your case has been evaluated that everything is okay, this one you have to follow very well with your doctor so that they are sure that you are taking the ARVs correctly before and even after, 6 months before and after, so that the baby can be guaranteed to at least take. Otherwise, you are discouraged not to, and they are given some other foods. Yeah. I don't know whether I've answered the seminarian a little bit.
Yeah. I've got you.
I think you need to mute. I'm trying to find. Okay. Then, sister, there was another question I saw on Facebook. Somebody was saying he missed the NAPRO tech. What was it about? What did you mean by NAPRO tech? Something like that. You mentioned it.
Sister is muted.
The NAPRO technology, which is actually founded by the Catholic institution Paul VI, is basically to help couples who are not able to, who are infertile, who are not able to achieve pregnancy. You know, normally what the society is offering is called IVF, which is contra procreation, the rules of principle of unity and procreation. So the church in her wisdom has gotten for us a wonderful, wonderful method in which couples who are having infertility problems can be helped. And what is the combined working of NAPRO technology? NAPRO technology uses Crankton method is actually using the Mucus method to understand what is the problem why the couple is not conceiving. So they check both the husband and the wife to address the underlying causes without interfering with the conjugal act. So they correct where the problem is. If there is problem with estrogen low level, that's what they give the treatment to be able to bring it to a level where it's supposed to give the quality mucus. If there's a blockage of fallopian tubes, that's what they need to flush. But IVF, what it does, it doesn't look at the underlying causes. What it does, it gives you the option without correcting your problem. NAPRO technology corrects the problem and allows the couple to unite as the way they're supposed to be through the normal marital act, while IVF does not. So this is another program on its own. If you want to know more about NAPRO technology, that would be another session because it is also, it takes a moment of time. But I know there are quite a number of doctors who, if in case you have a problem with your fertility, there are quite a number of Catholic doctors who led by Dr. Wahome, who could also help you to be able to observe your situation through the same technology.
Thank you. I see Father Edwin has his hand up. He can go ahead and speak or ask the question or comment. Is Father speaking? I'm not able to hear him. Father Edwin. We are not able to hear if he's speaking or whether he's really speaking. There are a few other questions. Probably you also saw them. They were in the chat before, like the question on the main two scenarios. Somebody who was talking of that was from Anthony. I have two scenarios. The menstrual cycle can sometimes change abruptly due to factors like stress, illness, things like that. Male sperm are not known to survive, are known to survive inside the vagina for a few days. Suppose a woman turns fertile abruptly when there is live sperm in her. I don't know what the question is. How do you respond to that? Then suppose I am a truck driver. I saw this. I'm a truck driver who spends most time away, and then after being out for 3 months, I come, and that is the day when my wife is unsafe. I don't know what he wants to mean by unsafe days. Maybe that means she can conceive. I'm only available for 1 day. Then what do I do? I'm not sure how valid that question is.
This reminds me of a couple whom I was guiding, the same problem. Because again, you have to understand, that's why I started with preparing the bed, what marriage is all about. What is it? Because when you understand what marriage is all about, you need to create time for family, especially for the gift of life and love. If you only create 1 day, I tell you, for the gift of life and love and pegging it on the job, then there will be difficulty. There will be difficulty because this requires constant communication. And I want to give an example of a couple who was having the same challenge. The husband was working in Mombasa and the woman is Nairobi, and he was only getting off at the end of the month. And at the end of the month, the woman was always in an infertile period. So what I did is like, I journeyed with the woman, and he was also there, but he was cooperating a lot. When we saw that the woman was having the mucus, the fertile mucus, beginning to build up, what I did the weekend, I told the man, just come overnight to Nairobi, you return the next Sunday. In that fertile period, we are able to tap that fertile period, and the man was able to come, and without losing his job, he was able to come to Nairobi, and the woman was in a peak, and they were able to be together in conjugal act. Now they have a child. For 5 years, this couple was not having any child because the timing was always wrong. And there's always on the side of the woman being told you are infertile. You know how it is with African setup. You are the one who is not, but the timing was wrong. So the timing is very important, and it takes a cooperation between the couples, as we heard from the Maina's family. It is not a one person alone. So you must sacrifice. Marriage is about sacrificing. So sacrifice 1 or 2 days a week to be with your spouse so that you're able to plan together, communicate, bond together. Because 1 day alone is very difficult training for marriage, especially for natural family planning. Marriage needs constant companion. That's why it is a lifelong partnership. You are together with your spouse. Even if work is taking you apart, create time and spend time with your wife so that you're able to journey together. There is beauty in seeing, and I'm sure the Maina family could tell you, there is beauty in seeing the cycle changing together as a couple. when you see together. There's such a beautiful thing when you go it through together than if you do it alone. So I would encourage my brother to make some sacrifices in the duty of work to be able to spend time with the wife so that they're able to master this properly without losing on the one side, not limping, so that the family can grow together. But they need to create time. That will require some sacrifices to be done one way or the other.
Yeah, sister, we can attribute to just what you've said, because many times, even in our setting, in the African setting, when you're expecting a child, you hear someone say, "My wife is pregnant," as though I, as the husband, had nothing to contribute to that. But even in my own journey and in that beauty and knowing what is going on with my spouse, with the later children, I was able to comfortably say that we are expecting a child.
Yes,
yes. And have this sense of ownership because of the natural way.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing natural family planning, it's not just it's not a tool to tell you when to have the conjugal act. Really, it is a way to grow your relationship.
Together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to grow together, to grow as a couple. And we've seen this happen, even through the unexpected or unplanned for pregnancies and the like, is when you're able now to handle this because you've grown together, you're well bonded, your marriage is strengthened to even handle some crises that come along. So we do concur with that observation.
Thank you.
Robert, you can comment on gender selection. Somebody has raised that question somewhere. And then another question that has come also through Facebook, which you may want to comment on, I know it was discussed, is the issue of irregular periods and what next? There was irregular periods and what? Yeah, just those ones. Irregular periods and gender.
Just before Robert talks about gender selection, I must say something. Please, Robert, tell them that every child is a gift from God. Be it a boy or a girl, is a gift from God. Please proceed.
It's true that every kid, every child is a gift from God. Most of the time, we have this thing like we have a right to a kid, but we normally say the only person here who has more rights is the child. And the right for a child is to be born of a mother and a father through the conjugal love. That's why you hear things like donation of sperm and surrogate mothers is really frowned upon by the Catholic Church because it actually goes against the teaching of our church. So what we can say is that during sex selection, we've said, let's first of all be clear that when we are open to life, we can we expect to get either a boy or a girl. But sometimes during natural family planning, we know there are couples who manage by monitoring their cycle, are able to tell during a certain time or during that fertility time, either the beginning, what kind of a child is expected, or during ovulation time, what kind of a child, the possible outcome of a child. Because we all know that the sperm has the X and the Y chromosome. And in this X and Y, the X is the girl and the Y is the male child. So the character of these sperms tend to differ. You find that the male, the Y chromosome tend to be very fast and so quick, and it dies so fast. And then when it comes to the female with the X chromosome, they tend to be slower and they can survive a longer time. So what happens is that if, for example, you are to have intercourse during ovulation time, the egg is there, it's ready. That means the first sperm, which is the fastest, which here we assume the fastest one is the male chromosome, will be the first one to get to the egg. So there's a likelihood of getting a boy. Unlike where the sperm has to live in the reproductive parts of the woman, waiting for the egg to mature, so that, you know, because we know the sperm can live to 3 to 5 days in the reproductive in the system. So that's how you can do the sex selection, by knowing what time are you having this conjugal love. Is it when the egg is ready? Are you going to wait? You know, it's possible to tell.
Yeah, but it's also like without very good rejoinder, we will say this is not the main objective.
Robert, move close.
Yeah, is that better? Yes. So we were saying this is not a main objective of the natural family planning. It's just, it is a side observation. So you don't go into natural family planning saying, I'm going into natural family planning because we are looking for a sex X. That is the wrong intention. So it's good to discuss that here, but with those riders and be very clear. You probably would be looking at that to say, if you have 5 children and you would like a more balanced 6, you know, and you've been in natural family planning for a while. And I'm only using that as a form of an example. So in coming to the earlier question about the irregular cycle, what we would say is this, depending on whatever you're calling irregular, you're moving from short 19 to 23 days to maybe the next cycle, fertility cycle is 30 days and the like. The body signs remain the same. So it is not a question of duration. Always it's a body sign. And what we've said with natural family planning, it's a lifestyle. So you're aware of your body on a daily basis. And when Joyce Observant, we use something similar like to this book you're seeing here, to record the body signs and to know and to make that observation. Those do not change. And it's what tells us the fertility, if ovulation is approaching, if it is past, if and when is a good time if you're avoiding a pregnancy, when is a good time if you're trying to achieve one. So it won't matter whether the cycle is regular or irregular. Thank you.
And I wish to just confirm what Maina family have just said. It is true. Gender selection, this is the question that I get most of the time. People come to you basically because when things have failed, now they come to me and say, now we want to get it at this time. And I always tell them, the first thing you must know is God is the giver of the child. It's a gift. Whatever gift God gives you, you take with open hand. But then you have to be disciplined, as they said. Y chromosome is only, it's like a rocket. It's only attracted to the egg. That is when it will shoot, for sure. And it will bypass the X chromosome, the X sperms that the male is producing. Also depends with the man. The quality of sperms that man has. And this is space a lot on nutrition. And I always tell people, when you enter into marriage, your nutrition can never be the same. If you are feeding on a particular sugary things, starchy things, it will influence a lot the kind of X and Y chromosome which are in proper quantity. Sometimes it is your Y chromosome which are of very low quality and they are very weak, they cannot swim because of one way or the other. So those are some challenges that men ought to understand. Much as ovulation is the favorable time and the woman is the key, both of you, if you have quality, poor sperms who are with the Y chromosome sperms which are of low quality, they cannot swim. Probably they have no head, they have got no tail, yet they are Y, but they have got no head, they have got no tail. How can they swim? They will not swim, and therefore the X will swim. So it depends with quite a number of things that we look for to say whether are the sperms you're having good quality, so that if you don't use ovulation method day as the day of getting a boy, yet you don't have the healthiest sperm to do the job, then for sure you will fail, and then you start condemning natural family planning, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of things around that. There are a lot of things that goes around that gender selection than what you see. The only thing I would tell you is you make sure your nutrition is correct, everything you're doing is very much correct, so that the sperm quality is in ratio. They're in ratio and they have the energy, I call it nguvu za kiume, to be able to swim, because you may have thousands of white sperms, but they are too lazy. They are not the composition. I don't know whether I saw that part. You saw that part. I was showing you the life of a sperm. If it doesn't have that neck of energy to be able to swim, even if it is white, it will not swim. It will just remain there, because the composition is poorly done. So these are things that we take into place to see. Much as you're looking for the boy child at this time, understanding that one, we also work on you as the man. Because for the woman, we cannot, she's already possessing the X chromosome. It is the man which needs a lot of work. And that plays a lot in the kind of nutrition you're doing, the kind of job you're doing, things that you're exposed to can influence the gender of your child one way or the other without knowing which one swims fast, which one is fully formed, which one is damaged. Yeah, so that goes to that in that area of gender selection. It's much more than what you think is just ovulation alone. It might take quite a lot of things to be done. Then there is a question. I think you've asked well the one of the regular periods. It does not change. The signs are the same. I think that is wonderfully answered, and we don't need to go into that. Basically, that's correct. Yeah. Paul, are you still there? Or we are left alone? Are we alone? Are we left alone here? The host has gone. Paul?
Yeah, there was a bit of technical issue. I had you starting to answer another question and then disconnected. We are very much around.
So I think
the father still wanted to say something. I see his hand is still up. Keeps.
Which father, Edwin?
Father Edwin, will you be able to speak now?
I really don't know whether you are getting me, Paul.
Now you could speak. Thank
now
you.
I'm good. Okay, thank you. So I want to thank Sister very much, and then the Mainas family for their presentation and for that enlightenment. My question is to the Mainas family because of the experience in marriage. I've found these men who believe that even chips is hidden using tomato sauce. I don't know what they could say about this because of these periods at that particular moment. What advice can you give to these men? Or what could be the effect of eating chips with tomato sauce?
Okay, thank you, Father. Well, let me just look at it from a wider perspective. And you know, during this period, probably as a couple, you may feel that it's unclean and you do not want to get in the act and the like. And however, there are those couples who probably have with shorter cycles. Their fertility has even started before the tomato sauce, in the middle of the tomato sauce, yes. I'm being corrected by Joyce. And they go many years, even without children, not knowing that this is what is happening, that it is maybe not especially 2 days after the tomato sauce has begun, the fertility can come in at that stage. However, in terms of the correctness or lack thereof, that I would probably say it is a couple themselves, because this is a discussion. It is not the men to take a perspective, really. It is the two of you as a couple to discuss and to agree on this matter. Yes, we ourselves through this work have had these exchanges where we've had even some couples saying that they have a lot of enjoyment in that time, but it is not something would say there's a definite yes or a definite no to. Unless, do you want to add something, Joyce?
Not really. Thank you, Father, for the question. And
Closer.
those maybe who might be wondering what Father is talking about, the question I want to, if it's okay, I can rephrase it.
Yep.
Father is asking, is it okay to engage in conjugal love during menses? Right, Father?
Yes.
Yes. And as Robert was saying, sometimes it happens that the cycle, women have different cycles. There are those who have, they call it the normal, and there are those who have the short and the long. So you might find a challenge, especially for the ones with the short cycle, because what happens is that the peak might happen actually during menses time. And you might find they've been struggling for so many years, they've even been called a barrel, they're not barren, they're not able to get children. But because they're not able to identify when, they've not experienced the fertile or the peak time. So maybe after going through the natural family, the NFP process, they're able to identify that during menses, especially towards the end, that's when their peak happens. And for sure, I think it will be okay for them if they're trying to achieve a pregnancy to have this conjugal love at that period. That's the only time they can, because I don't think there'll be any other, even if they chose not to do it during that time, and that's the only window that they have, they will have a bit of a challenge. But for those who enjoy it, for one reason or the other, I wouldn't comment on that because I wouldn't know why they would want to engage. I'm thinking it would be very uncomfortable for maybe both. Because me, I remember, especially when I was having the pill and I would have the spotting, it was very uncomfortable for me to, to do that when there was a bit of bleeding. It was a bit uncomfortable. And for those
yeah. Unless there's any other contribution.
I just want to.
Personally, I didn't understand the question.
I wish to add on what the Mainas have said and confirm. Normally, in natural family planning, we term the menstrual cycle as fertile. And meaning if you are looking for a baby, because of the changes of fertility, not even for the shorter people with the shorter period. As remember, I told you what can interrupt fertility can also be stress or anything. Even the woman with a normal cycle, if she has an interruption, probably something has stressed her, her fertility can even come at the time that she is menstruating. So what is she supposed to do? Even women are supposed to observe what are they seeing in the pad. If there are mucus coming with blood and those mucus are stretchy, it means that you're fertile during that period. Menstruation is normally termed as a fertile window because it can change from one woman to the other, much as you even with a longer one. If anything happens to you, maybe there's a stress, you might find that you are fertile on the time of menses and you are seeing the mucus coming with blood. And you'll find some testimony of women saying that I saw mucus coming with blood, I saw everything that is right and I got pregnant, yet my cycle is long. So it's because of disturbances in the system, in the fertility cycle, even the longer one can have fertility during the menses. So in natural family planning, menstrual period, we term it as fertile. So if you engage in it, be sure that you can be open also to fertility. But for those who have short cycle, indeed, yes, that is the key to use. But for those with long cycle also, if you're not looking for a baby, I'd rather you be careful because the cycle must have changed and things, she's ovulating and she's menstruating. So you need to be very observant what is coming with the blood. I think that was a very good question from Father Edwin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if there is any burning question that will be cut out or will feel left out if we don't respond to. Anybody with a question or a comment before we close?
Okay, Paul, just a minute.
Thank you very much, Father. Speak.
I wanted Sister to say something a little about the couple's prayer because I know she has a very good direction about this meal because the conjugal love she explains it as a meal and there is a prayer before then. Please, Sister, can you say something about that?
Yes, what Father is saying is actually drawn from the book of Tobit, the prayer of Tobias and Sarah before conjugal act. This is what we understand is the teaching that every couple, before engaging in conjugal act, remember conjugal act is actually you are co-creating with God. It is not our power, but we are co-creating with God. So bringing God into our life is very important before we partake into the meal. And so therefore, that is the origin of this prayer before any conjugal act between couples. Couples are advised strongly not to partake on the meal if we pray for the food that we get, ordinary food that we receive by work of our hands. What about the gift of this procreation that God has given us? Don't we deserve to say a prayer? So that prayer is originated in the scripture in which you have to say a prayer. It has a liturgical process, and the liturgy normally starts in the beginning of the week. It follows more or less the same system as the liturgy that we have partaking on this sacred meal, whereby we have the entrance song, we have the readings before conjugal act, and there is no issue you can say the urge will disappear. The urge will not disappear. This is your wife. A reading before the meal. And what are the readings we are having here? The readings you're having here, basically the readings we read on your wedding day. You are remembering that moment because the conjugal act is a memory of a memory of this work that God did to us. You are co-creating when He created us. You are partaking in that memory. So you are taking the readings of your wedding night before, and normally it's done by the priest of the home, and the priest of the home is the man. The man is the one who leads this prayer. Even in the prayer of Tobit, it is the Tobias who actually opened the prayer, leading Sarah through. So there is a prayer that is opened by the man before conjugal act, because conjugal act is a holy act. You don't partake on a holy meal without acknowledging the giver. Remember, I talked about the logic of the gift. Our sexuality is a gift. So thanking God for the gift of our sexuality to co-create with Him follows a liturgical rite. So the man, the priest of the home, is the one to lead this prayer. When I talk about entrance hymn, I'm not talking about Tuingie kwa Yawe, the one we sing. No, we are talking about the language of love. What are the words that you share together? Other things that you share as a couple to prepare for this language. This prayer is not family prayer. It is conjugal prayer, couples prayer. It is in the bedroom. It is not on the sitting room. Once you finish praying with your children, you go to the bedroom. That is where you do your conjugal prayer with your spouse. And the readings must go on, and the song must go on, and the whole process of consummation will take place, which is thanksgiving. And then after prayer, after partaking on the meal, there's always thanksgiving. So please don't sleep before you do some thanksgiving. There's always thanking God for the gift of giving you opportunity to be able to co-create with Him. Don't partake on this sacred meal without following the prayer of Tobias and Sarah. That is where we get the root of couples prayer. And there's a formula. If you need a formula, you can email me. I'll be able to guide you on that one. But if you don't know the formula, any prayer that you can do with your readings, if you can still remember the readings of your wedding, before you partake on this meal, please don't just jump and partake on a holy act. You must acknowledge, appreciate, thank God for this gift of sexuality that is given to us. It is very sacred. Co-creating belongs to God. Creation belongs to God. We are partaking in this holy act of bringing life. Therefore, we need to thank God for this gift that is given to us. And it takes a prayer and it is a liturgy. If you have been partaking on the food without praying, you didn't know. Now you know. Pray before the meal. Tuombe before we eat. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, sister. I hope that question is conclusively answered, Father. And people have really asked, sister, if they can get your contact and